Hey everybody, this is David, and in this video I'm going to show you how to install WordPress. WordPress is what's known as a content management system, or CMS. Sounds really technical, but all it really means is it's the framework that holds your website together and basically builds it. So WordPress allows you to change how your website looks, it allows you to add content to it, everything like that. So it's essentially what lets you build a website. Before we get into it, there's a couple things to know just to avoid confusion. There are two versions of WordPress. One is what I'm on now, which is wordpress.org. The second is on wordpress.com. What's the difference? Well, wordpress.com is kind of a all-in-one solution where they host WordPress for you. All you do is sign up and it's kind of ready to go. There are a bunch of downsides to it. It's not as flexible. You can't do as much with it. You don't have as much control over it. So the vast majority of people use wordpress.org. Having said that, you don't need to even go to wordpress.org because most web hosting companies that you're going to sign up with have a pretty automated system of installing WordPress for you. So there's really not much to it. Don't worry about going to either one of these sites right now. I just wanted you to be aware so you don't go to wordpress.com and sign up not knowing. So in addition to WordPress, you need two things to get your website online. The first is a domain name. The second is a web host. Your domain name is just going to be the address of your website, essentially. So on YouTube, youtube.com is the domain name. Same thing with Google, Amazon, any website you go to. In a nutshell, it's just the way that computers and users talk to each other. So if you type in youtube.com, your web browser knows where to send you. That's your domain name. The second is your web host. This is what actually holds the WordPress files, the content you write, and kind of houses your domain name. So you're going to hook up your domain name to your web host, and then you're good to go. There are a lot of web hosts out there, and there's a lot of really good choices, to be honest. If you go with one of the top companies, you're not really going to go wrong. Our web host of choice is SiteGround. We like SiteGround for a number of reasons. They've been really reliable. We haven't had any issues with our websites going down. They have really good performance, which is a big thing as you build your site. Google looks at your site speed, the speed in which your website loads, as somewhat of a ranking factor. So essentially, the faster and better optimized your site is, the more boost you're going to get in the search engine rankings, which we'll get to in later videos. There are a couple ways you can handle buying a domain name. So you can get a domain name from an external registrar. An example of this would be namecheap.com. You can search for domain names here. You can register it. The only difference if you do it this way versus getting it through SiteGround is you have to do one extra step to configure it, which isn't a big deal. You have to just change your name servers, which I'll show in a later video. It's really easy. There's lots of tutorials on that. You'll notice that Namecheap also has WordPress hosting. We don't really recommend that. It's not bad, but for the money, SiteGround is just a much better all-around choice. So to get started with SiteGround, you have to choose a plan. If you're just starting out and you want to go with the bare minimum possible, the startup plan is fine. The only thing to watch out for that one is that you can only install one website or have one domain running on there. If you want to add another domain later on, you can upgrade. It's not a big deal, but if you want to do that right away, you would want to go with probably the Grow Big plan. The Grow Big plan should keep you going for quite a while. It allows up to 25,000 visits to your website every month. That sounds like a lot, but once you get going, you'll find that you're getting more than that, hopefully in the not too far future. So at that point, you would probably want to upgrade to the Go Geek plan or do some custom plan if you wanted. It's the same thing as Grow Big in that you get unlimited websites. There's a little bit more space, but a lot more visits. Speaking of space, I'll just talk about that really quick. So it's essentially like the hard disk on your computer. You know how you have so many gigs of space on your computer to hold, your own photos or videos or programs. It's the same thing with your server or your web host. Those are the same things. Your web host is just a computer essentially sitting at some location. You can't do this from your house. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's basically what a web host / server is. So the web space is essentially the same thing. It's just how much you can hold. Now you're not going to need a lot of space if you do anything like that would take a lot of space, maybe like videos. You'd probably want to host them somewhere else too. Because they take up a lot of space for one thing, and they usually run faster if you host them somewhere like, say, YouTube. WordPress itself and the post content or the articles that you write aren't really going to take up much room. Usually what takes up the most room is going to be your images. So you'll do a couple of things which I'll talk about later in this series for optimizing your images so they take up less space. So after you have decided your plan, go ahead and click Get Plan. Go to the next section. Now this is where you can either register a domain name, or if you already have a domain name, you can put it in here. If it's your first time getting set up with WordPress, or it's like your first website, or you just want to make everything really convenient, we'd recommend getting your domain name through SiteGround here. It's slightly more expensive than if you go through Namecheap, but it's not really a whole lot. I think it's maybe $5 or $6 more per year, and it's just for convenience sake, it's a bit easier. So you would want to put your domain name without the .com if your domain name has a different top level domain. So instead of .com, if it's .me or .io or something, you can change it there. If you want to register a new domain name, you can search it here. Just do some planning before, because once you pick a domain name, it's kind of a pain in the butt to change down the road. So ideally, you just want to keep the same domain name. After you choose your domain name, go ahead and fill out your account information. And that'll take you to where you actually go to purchase hosting services. One thing I want to point out when you sign up for hosting, and this is the same for virtually any host, it's kind of the way that they just do things. When you sign up, you're going to get a low price, like $3.95 a month. The deal is you have to pay a minimum of 12 months, so essentially a year at a time. If you go longer than that, sometimes you can get the price down a bit. So if I go here and I select 36 months, I'm going to lock in the $3.95 a month for 36 months. After that period, you go up to the regular price, which right here is $11.95 per month. Usually by that point, you're making enough money where it's just peanuts and you really don't care. But they also usually offer some kind of deal to renew. So it's totally up to you. If you want to sign up for 12 months, that's fine. If you want to sign up for 36 months, that's fine. Just wanted you to be aware of that because it's something that all hosts do. And it's a little weird when you see the $3.95 a month advertised on a host, and then you realize you're not just going to pay $3.95 in the beginning. You don't need this SG site scanner, so you can skip that for now. One of the things I really like about SiteGround is they have a wizard that makes installing WordPress really easy, just a couple clicks. So when you sign up, you're going to get a couple of things. You'll be taken to the wizard, but you'll also get an email with important information about how you access your account. So make sure you save that, save the username, password, and LastPass, and bookmark it if you use that or something similar, because that's where you're going to access the technical part of your website. Like if you want to change something with your hosting plan, you don't need it to access WordPress. That'll be different, but anyway, it's important information to keep. So you can launch the wizard now, or if you want to continue later, you can close this and just go to your email when you're ready and get going that way. The next page is going to show you the domain name that you chose when you were starting up, so that's fine. You are going to start a new website and you're going to select WordPress. Just to talk about this while we're here, what are these other things? Well, there are other content management systems. They have a little bit of a specialized aim, I guess. WooCommerce is set up. WooCommerce is actually something that you integrate into WordPress, so it's not totally separate from it, but it would be if you wanted to set up, an e-commerce store and you were going to sell things, you can add that later, so it's not a big deal. Something like Weebly you might have seen before. It's kind of like a very stripped down website builder. It's really easy, super easy to use, but it's more for people who maybe have a small business and they just need a website with a couple pages on it. It's not aimed at bloggers or anything like that. So that's why we're using WordPress. After that, your account is ready to go and we'll jump into the admin area. All right, here we are in the admin area. I'll just give you a really quick tour. There's not a lot you're going to do in here. My accounts just shows you what accounts you have. If you started with a small plan, you're only going to have the one domain you set up. If you want to add new domains, you'll come back here and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Click on support. Even though WordPress is quote unquote easy, you're still going to have some questions as you go, right? It's new and it's something you've never done before. The first thing I'd like to remind everyone is that you can't break anything, so don't worry about just trying stuff. Anything can be easily undone. When you do need help though, make use of SiteGround support. That's one of the functions that a hosting provider is there for. Not only to keep your website running and secure, but also to support you, getting it up and running or whatever you need to do. So you can go through their help resources. They'll have a lot of the most commonly asked questions in there. If you need to submit a ticket though, you can do this down here. Just click that and you can ask really any question you want. They're used to getting it and that's what they're there for. So don't hesitate to reach out to them. At some point, whether it's now or in the future, you're going to want to add other websites or you need more hits available, more traffic. So you can just go to add services and you can upgrade. So right now I'm on the startup. I could upgrade to Grow Big or Go Geek. This other stuff you don't really need right now, but that's how you would upgrade really easy. So if something happened and you had to redo installing your site, or at the point you want to add more websites, you would just come here to the My Accounts tab, click Add Installation Manually, and it's going to bring you to this scary looking thing, which I promise isn't as scary as it looks. Well, maybe it is a little bit, but all you really need to know is you're going to click on this WordPress over here and you're going to click Install. I'll point out also that this system right here, the Softaculous, I think I'm saying that right. This is something that most web hosts use in some form or another. So if you're signed up with another host, this might look really familiar to you and it's going to function pretty much the same way. When you go to install WordPress, you can pretty much leave everything how it is except for a few things. You're going to choose your installation URL. So if you want people to go to your site, your front page is just going to be yourdomainname.com. Don't install it in a directory. If you were to have, say, you wanted to have a separate blog from another site, you could install it in directory blog. You can actually do that even if you don't install it in a directory. So if you're confused or you're not sure, just leave that blank. Your site name and description is what you would add right here. You can just leave this like it is for now because you can change that later. Down here, the admin username and password. This is what you're going to log in. This is how you're going to log into WordPress and do everything you need to do there. One thing I'll say is do not use admin for your admin username. It's a security thing. If people are going to try to hack your site, that's the username that is most used, so they're going to try that. So just change it to anything else. Your name is fine, but if you want to add other accounts to WordPress later, if you want to have a separate admin account, you can do that and then set up your account that you're going to write things on. I do it where my admin account is also just the account I write with, just to keep things easy. So I just put my name here, or whatever name I want to show up on published posts. And then make sure you use an email that you have access to. So don't use your domain that you just registered. Don't use that email, at least yet, because you won't have access to it. We haven't set that up. So use an email that you have access to. That's important because if you get locked out or something, you're going to need that. A couple other things. I installed a classic editor, and I'll show you why and talk about that a little bit later. You can leave this WordPress starter on or off if you want. For the purposes of these tutorials, I would just uncheck it. It just kind of gives you a little wizard and helps you select a theme. But again, you don't really need it. You can do everything that it does for you manually. Just click install, and that's pretty much it. In the next video, we're going to finally jump into the WordPress admin area and do a quick overview and see what all the functions are. So I'll see you there.